this statement to the honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in relation to matters before the public meeting? Got to retrain me every so often. Sorry about that, Sean. Any disclosures of pecuniary interests? Seeing none. Entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda of the public meeting of council. I have moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? That is carried. So for new business, we have two items this evening. The first up is that this public meeting of council has been called to consider proposed amendments to the City of Pembroke zoning bylaw 2020-05 under Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990. Clerk, would you please provide a report on how notice of this hearing was given?
This was advertised in the local media.
Thank you. I'd ask for the planning report from Ms. Sorio, the Director of Planning, regarding this particular application.
So the first one is in regards to cannabis production facility. In 2015, Council amended the city's zoning bylaw to allow medical marijuana facilities in general industrial and economic enterprise zones, so the two industrial zones. Then in 2020, Council passed a new comprehensive zoning bylaw which expanded the definition to allow cannabis production facilities in M1 and M2 zones. So a cannabis production facility is a building used for the growing, production, processing, and distribution of medical and or recreational cannabis authorized by a federally issued license or registration. And no part of this operation, whether accessory or not, can be located outside. The zoning bylaw goes on to state that a licensed producer shall provide to the city's chief administrative officer a copy of a current and valid production license which is issued by Health Canada. The cannabis production facility must be at least 70 meters from the building to a lot, residential or institutional zone, or from a school, a day nursery, or a community center. There should be no outdoor signage, no outdoor open storage. And finally, the zoning bylaw requires a site plan agreement for this type of use. However, there have been issues with a particular cannabis production facility recently in the city. There were complaints about odor, and a vast majority of these types of operations are operating under Health Canada's registration system to produce cannabis for medical purposes in separate suites in one building. There is a lack of inspection from Health Canada, and what that means is that the cannabis producer has received authorization from Health Canada to grow a certain amount of cannabis, and in many cases they are growing well over the amount they are allotted. And further, they do not have to meet the requirements like odor control when they are operating in smaller suites, and this has caused a problem in many Ontario municipalities. So many municipalities are now adding odor control requirements to the provisions of a cannabis production facility. So licensed producers are expected to obey all relevant federal, provincial, and municipal laws and bylaws. So the City of Pembroke is proposing, as part of the zoning provisions for a cannabis production facility, that they must submit an odor mitigation plan, which details the measures they will take to prevent and mitigate odor emissions. The plan must include information on the types of air filtration and ventilation systems that will be used. Further, as part of the plan, these facilities would be subject to regular inspection reports to ensure compliance with their odor control plan. And these plans would be peer-reviewed at the developer's cost to ensure the odor control plan is appropriate and effective. So the Combined Committee of Council at its July meeting recommended the rezoning process to keep the existing provisions as listed in this report, but to add an odor mitigation plan as well for future cannabis production facilities. The official plan also states that a Class 1 industrial use, such as a cannabis production facility, should be 70 meters away from sensitive land uses, which our zoning bylaw agrees with. And it meets the provincial policy statement where major facilities and sensitive land uses shall minimize and mitigate any potential adverse effects from odor, noise, and other contaminants. So by adding the requirement for an odor mitigation plan for cannabis production facilities, along with the existing separation distance of 70 meters from the facility to sensitive land uses, will minimize and mitigate any potential adverse effects and ensure compatibility between these uses.
Ms. Soria, was there anyone in opposition of that application that's before us?
There was no one in opposition, and there was
Support?
no correspondence received.
As it was housekeeping, I guess.
Yeah.
Is there a report from the Chair of Planning Development Committee regarding this particular matter?
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. We did broach this item at our regular meeting. It's come to my attention, however, that it's wonderful when you're driving to a council meeting and you roll down your window and what you can smell is a beautiful charred smell of steak on the barbecue and the smoking of skunkweed. It's prevalent, it's there. I mean, it's in your neighborhoods, you can't avoid it. My question is although it meets the provincial mandate for allotment as to where these units will be open and shall be looked after, there is a vast void as to what the federal responsibility is in checking these facilities and making sure that they're in compliance with the law and also in compliance with the amount of marijuana that's being grown. I don't have an issue with something that's been legalized by the federal government, but however, if they're going to legalize it and they want to have policy to enforce things, then they should follow their mandate of enforcement. I'm not sure whether the OPP is responsible for this because it may be categorized as a subnarcotic. Perhaps in previous days it was the RCMP that took on that role. I'd like to know who's responsible. I'd like to know if anybody's come to check from the federal government, and if they have not, when will they come? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I guess the OPP have been involved in two of the cannabis production facilities. These production facilities are no longer in use, so there are no cannabis production facilities at this point in the city of Pembroke. So that's why we're going forward in case there is one in the future, to ensure that there is an odor mitigation plan in place so that there is not that smell for the neighbors.
Your Worship, just as a follow-up from the planning perspective, when this was introduced across the government, across Canada a number of years ago, we were told that in the province of Ontario, there would be 6 outlets for the sale of cannabis. I want to know if there's going to be a restriction in a community such as ours as to how many of these stores can be open. I mean, if you drive down the street, you'll see them everywhere. You see them in the mall. You see a couple down street. Is there a limit to limit that type of a business, or are we not within our mandate to restrict them? My only concern is they said 2 in the province of Ontario, and Pembroke has 6. So where does it end and where does it stop? And I'm not trying to grill you through you, Your Worship, but it just seems that there's legislation and there isn't legislation. Which is it? Is it 2? Is it 6? Or is it 100?
Well, through you, Mr. Chairman, these aren't, the ones that are existing downtown and in the city are retail stores. So there are no limits on the amount of retail stores. It's whatever the market will bear. What we're talking about today is cannabis production facilities and in creating the cannabis, and that's where the smell comes from. It's not from the retail stores.
I'm sorry, Your Worship, I just can't let this go. Just as a further, if the cannabis is being produced at these sites, is it being sold to the retail outlet that sells it to the public? Do we know that?
Perhaps that's something Ms. Soria can look into. I
Thank you.
doubt that they're issuing it directly to retailers right here in Pembroke. Does any other members of council have any questions in respect to this housekeeping item for council in our public meeting? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn number 1 housekeeping item. I have the deputy mayor, second by Councillor Keel. Those in favor,
That is carried. The second item this evening is Z9 2024 Cedar Lane Properties, City of Pembroke. Meeting has been called to consider proposed amendments to the City of Pembroke zoning bylaw 2020-05 under Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990. And again, Clerk, how was notice given of this particular item?
Notice was given in the August 1st, 2024.
Thank you. And I'd ask for, again, a report from Ms. Sorio, Director of Planning, in respect to this particular application.
Thank you. The Planning Department has recently found inconsistencies with the zoning of properties on Cedar Lane, 901 to 939 Cedar Lane. Under the city's previous zoning bylaw, which was enacted in 2010, every property on Cedar Lane carried the zoning marker of a W, which meant that there was municipal water services were available to the properties and that they must be used, but that municipal sanitary sewer services were not available to the properties and private septic systems could be used instead. So this W zoning marker was accurate and reflected the existing servicing situation of the properties on Cedar Lane. However, when the new and current comprehensive zoning bylaw was reviewed and completed by a consulting firm, the W marker was left off of some of the properties on Cedar Lane, which didn't accurately reflect the servicing availability on Cedar Lane, and thus making the use of private septic systems a zoning contravention. So the Planning Department wishes to correct these inconsistencies under the current zoning bylaw back to their correct zoning, which was in place. And to do so, the zoning bylaw for all the properties on Cedar Lane are required in a housekeeping zoning bylaw amendment. So the proposed zoning would change the properties to a residential type 1-water zone, a residential type 1-flood fringe water zone, and a floodplain zone. Therefore, the zoning of the properties would remain the same, but with a W symbol that would be added to the zone just to indicate that there is water service available in this area. This is a minor change just to indicate there is city water services along Cedar Lane, and a letter was sent to all owners of the properties along Cedar Lane, and no calls or letters were received.
Thank you, Ms. Sorio. So you answered the question to opposition and support. Is there a report from the Chair of Planning Development Committee respect to this particular housekeeping item?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a housekeeping item. It came before the committee, and I don't believe there was any problem. We're just cleaning up a bit. Thank you.
Okay. Any members of council having any questions? Seeing none, a motion to adjourn this and to adjourn this whole public meeting of council. I have Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? And we are adjourned.
Committee meeting open for business of Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, I need approval of the oral amendment of the meeting agenda. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, we have some presentations and a delegation. Number A is the Terry Fox Run update, and I'd invite Stan Halliday to come forward and give us a little bit of an overview on how that was and how it went. Stan, welcome to council.
Just right there.
Right there, Stan. Mike.
Well, the Terry Fox run went okay, but the numbers for the last few years are way down. Ever since we had those schools that we all know that. But at one time, we used to have a few hundred in the Terry Fox run when there was organizations running it, which was the Rotary Club and well, most of yous are in all the clubs that used to run it. Kingsman, Knights of Columbus, and we had a good group of people like Bill Higginson and Terry O'Neill and all the guys. And we had a real good, and the Kiwanis Club. I hope I didn't miss any because they've been our big supporters. And also the city of Pembroke, you've been big supporters. But I tried something different this year, and we did. I had the Hendersons, who Dave and Carolyn, they came and sat for a while and took registrations. Well, they had two in the 2 hours that they were there, and we had 1 hour. We had two people, Lorette and I, from 8 o'clock to 10. But that's not the thing. You can still go online, and I get the update from the Terry Fox Foundation, and last year we had 10 people online that did it. So that's registered under Pembroke too. What I would like to see, if anybody's interested in any of the clubs and setting and getting in early and getting people organized, and do it like either at the Boardwalk or at the Kiwanis Club, and that's a good place because years ago when we first started this, it was at the old Kmart at the West End Mall, and they took that away from us because of the insurance. The kids would go right around out by the old dump and right around by the graveyards and that. And it was the insurances that calved all that. So, but the best place is around Riverside Park or down the Boardwalk. And I think it's quite a facility, and I think we should get more people involved and try to anyways. Like, I go around, and the Legion has been superb, and my family. My daughter-in-law, if you're on Facebook, she has my mug out there for 2 months. I hope nobody uses it as a dartboard or anything, but, and I don't blame them if they do. But anyways, I would like to see other people get involved. I tried to get a few younger people, but it's hard. And the schools, even the schools, like when Alfie Sickley at Cathedral, he used to invite me, and the kids would, whatever they raised, would give it to the Terry Fox Foundation to me. And I don't know why, they could have just sent it, but now that's all gone too. So the schools, you can't blame them with all the thing going on, all the different things. So, but this year, I must say, thanks to my wife and all the family and everybody, all the associations that give me a support, like when you start giving $500 and $1,000 to one individual for a Terry Fox run, and then all the other clubs, $400, $200, $200, and individuals given $100, $200, that means something, and that's why I say, if we all work together, it might get a little better.
Thank you, Stan, for coming. Your worship, I believe you wanted to comment?
Unless, Mr. Chair, there's some questions. I know for myself, I'm curious as to this year whether or not Mr. Halliday has any indication as to funds generated this year, but perhaps it's too early after the run.
Yes, it was unbelievable. I think right now it is just closing as of the 1st of October. I'm over 5,000. And that is one of the highest I've did. Not me, the community.
Are there any questions of council, or? Yes, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
So
Did you want to
Stan,
enroll in the run next year? You
Well,
said?
I'm going to help him out next year, and I'll help you get organized in that and be involved. I told you about Pine View School, I chaired that, the schools do a great job, but how many years have you been doing?
44.
44 years. And you just celebrated a recent birthday.
Yeah, I made it anyway.
I won't say the age.
I always said when I make 80, I might quit.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to try for 82
Well, there you go.
or 81.
Well, thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you.
Don't go away, Stan. His worship has something to say to you, I think, on behalf of council.
So yes, perhaps if you could come up here, Stan, for a moment. Get this out of the way. So, for everyone, all members of council, good evening, everyone. The city of Pembroke is fortunate to have many caring, dedicated, and faithful volunteers who contribute to the splendor of the beautiful city of Pembroke. And one such volunteer is Stan Halliday. And so I feel a little bit of shame in getting you to come here to give us a report, which we did need and want this report. But in addition to that was an ulterior motive. And so you have some good family and friends who assisted in getting you here.
I kind of thought something was up.
One of these things is the Pembroke Legion Branch 72 that one typically thinks of when they think of Stan Halliday, but on many occasions I've attended various events at the Pembroke Legion. Stan's always greeted me with a smile, thanking me for coming, making me feel right at home. And as everyone knows, or should know, that Branch 72 is a huge driving force in Pembroke that works diligently for not only assisting with their members, but the community at large. Branch 72 is always assisting individuals and organizations in the community, financially and otherwise. Currently, Stan is the president of Branch 72, for those that don't know. In addition to his work at Branch 72, Stan gives in so many ways, and this evening's report is just one of them. One only needs to look at his work in terms of the Terry Fox Run, and this being his 44th year raising money in the fight of cancer at 80 years young, as they always say. Tonight, however, is not necessarily about Branch 72 or its great work, but it's about you. Stan, you exemplify what it means to be a true leader and volunteer in our community. You exhibit all that is good of a citizen in our beautiful city of Pembroke, and for that, as mayor of the city of Pembroke, I feel it's important to recognize you this evening. I want to thank you and your family for sharing you with our community. I know it seems like everywhere I go, even the torch run, everywhere I go, there's Stan, and he's a driving force for whatever that event happens to be. And so for all of this, I'm very grateful that you're a member, a driving force in the city of Pembroke and making it to be such a great place that it is. And so for that, it's my honor to present you with an award this evening. And it says, Mayor's Award, presented to Stan Halliday with great appreciation of your many years of dedicated service, devotion, and commitment to our community. Signed October 1st, 2024.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. And for everything that you do, I'm also, there's a fellow in our community, his name is Massimo, and he's always taking pictures of all the different scenes and so forth in Pembroke. And so the community that you obviously love is I'm presenting you also with one of his autograph books of various different sites and photos of the city of Pembroke. So you have that as well.
Thank you very much. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, you want- Thank you for sharing with our community. Did you want to see it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, I get this pretty honestly. A lot of people don't know, but my mother was the driving force of the Hallidays. And there was 13 boys and 2 girls. And Mom would even take, no matter where we played hockey or ball or anything, and we never had a car. Never had a car in our house on Darcy Street. And my mother was the driving point. My dad was always in the background, but he stayed away from Mom. We had 13 boys and 2 girls, and we had a great family. And mostly all the boys played good hockey and good ball. And my young brother Dennis, who left us, he was the captain of the juniors and a great hockey player. He left, he was captain, and he played with some good teams. But there's one guy I forgot that's in the room, and he helped me with the Terry Fox run in my early years. I had to leave, go out of town, and I wanted to make sure people knew I did the Terry Fox. Well, there was this young broadcaster that just came into town, and I knew his family really well. So I called him up, Jamie Bramberger. Jamie, do you remember bicycling beside me when I was running in the rain? Well, that's that was one of the first years, I think, back. I wanted to mention Jamie because I've known him a long time. But I want to thank the council and the city of Pembroke. If it wasn't for you guys, we keep going, and the main thing is keep going. And that's what my theory. But I also want to thank, I think Rick Power might have had something to do with this, or some Legionnaires. And Rick, I want to thank you to make this possible. But I thank all the councillors and everybody in Pembroke. The citizens of Pembroke have been great to me. I don't mind if they use me as a dartboard sometime. So, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Stan, Rick, and Lorette for getting him here. I know there was a lot of secret conversation probably going on, organized by the mayor, of course, and we wanted to be a secret, so I'm glad it was. It means more that way. And thank you, Stan, for your ongoing contributions forever. Thank you. Our next item of business will be the Algonquin College update. Mr. Unrod, did you want to bring us forward on that one? Introduce our guests for us. We know them, but...
Yeah, tonight we have Mr. Jamie Bramberger, Algonquin College intern dean of the Pembroke Algonquin Waterfront Campus, and Ms. Jody Buchholz, manager, local immigration partnership, Lanark and Renfrew. And they're in attendance to provide a presentation and update.
Welcome again. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you for the opportunity to update you on the happenings at the Waterfront Campus here in downtown Pembroke. So thanks again for the opportunity. Always good to see council. So we'll get right into it. I have Jody Buchholz with me, who will lead you through some data points that I think you'll find quite interesting about our student population. But let me just set up our presentation tonight. So we want to share with you an enrollment update, which is very healthy for the fall, and we're quite pleased. Master Campus Development Plan, we'll touch on that a little bit. A strategic planning exercise that we're going through right now at the Pembroke campus and at all of Algonquin College, what we've called Vision 2030 at the local level. Certainly community partnerships and support, touch on that a little bit as well. And then something that I think will be of interest to you, municipal labor market forum, based on some feedback that we've been getting from local municipalities around some labor market challenges, workforce challenges in a variety of areas. I just put the one picture in there that you could see. That's from 2019, the flooding. I think that picture says a lot about our commitment to this community as a college. That is a group of forestry students, and that's just a sample of the amount of debris that was pulled from the shoreline of the Ottawa River right down at the waterfront after that devastating flood. And just reassure you that we are committed to this community, and we will be for the foreseeable future. Jody.
Thank you. This evening I join you as the Acting Manager of Community and Student Affairs to paint a little bit of a picture of what our student profile looks like this fall at the Pembroke Waterfront Campus. So you see up on the big screen there, a little bit of a look at where our local students are coming from across Renfrew County. So we have a total population of 121 out of 285 first-year students who have a Pembroke address. So that represents 42% of our current student population at level 1 of their fall studies. And noteworthy that there is 10% of our total domestic population that does identify as Indigenous, not necessarily Indigenous from Algonquins of Pequawknagon and the surrounding area, but it does include First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. Looking at provinces and territory, no surprise here that Ontario is our largest draw, but it is noteworthy again that we do attract students from right across the country. And it is also important to note too that this does not include the demographic breakdown of our Bachelor of Science in Nursing students, which does represent 165 students overall for our total student population for years 1 through 4. Countries that are represented. So of our total student population, we have a 19% international student population of our total overall student population this fall. And looking at the breakdown of those international student populations, we do have a total of 77 students who are from India, and that does represent 67% of our international student population overall. But what is also noteworthy is that we are seeing a larger diversity of students from a variety of different countries. We have in the past seen students from places like Nigeria and the Philippines and China as well. But this year we're also seeing a growing number of students from places like Kenya, from places like Mongolia and Nepal. So again, though our international student population, we do continue to see a large percentage of students from India, which is our largest market. It is really encouraging to see that we're seeing such a diverse student population representing 18 different countries across our globe. Our gender distribution, so we do predominantly, and this has been the case for a number of years at the Pembroke campus, we do have a predominant female population, or those who identify as female, and that is really part and parcel thanks to our healthcare programs, which is our largest number of students in program. And then we have 38% who identify as male, and then we do have 2% that are undeclared or non-binary. And again, noting that this does not include our Bachelor of Science in Nursing student breakdown, as these details are not typically provided by the University of Ottawa, which is the collaborative university for our BSCN program. Age range. This is one I think that I'm not going to say necessarily caught us by surprise, but we do see that it is scaling a little bit younger as it has in years past. So of our 805 total student enrollment for the fall, 537 of those students do range between 18 to 25, which represents 67% of our total student population. Again, noting that this does not include the demographics for our Bachelor of Science in Nursing students. Our average age on campus is 24, and our mean age is 21. Even though we do have a large population who is between 18 to 25, it is, again, really very noteworthy that you can see from ages 16 to 62 are our student populations on campus. And anecdotally, the gentleman who is 62 years of age is in one of our most physically demanding programs in our urban forestry arboriculture program. So again, there are so many stories to tell with our demographics on campus. Direct versus indirect, if this is maybe a little bit of a revisit to what that language means, direct would be directly from high school or secondary school versus non-direct, which is somebody who has taken at least a year out of their secondary school studies. And the numbers represented up on the screen are from 2023 because these details are not quite ready yet for 2024. And so we are seeing a little bit of a skew here where we do have the largest population is, which hasn't changed, is non-direct, representing 50.4. The direct population, we do still see a good number represented in our student population at 19.3 for the 2023 academic year. And then unknown being at times if they haven't provided their specific high school transcripts through Ontario College Application System. We don't necessarily know whether they are direct or non-direct, and it might also represent some of our international student population.
So when we look at our Students Association, they set priorities every year, the directors. And these are the three they've set this year. So academic experience, not surprisingly. They want the best quality experience for their students in our programs across the college. Students are very concerned about the mental health and well-being of the student population, as are we, and we're certainly putting more resources into that space all the time. And transportation, and I'm just coming from a meeting about public transit here and the potential for that in the city of Pembroke, and one of our Student Association directors has been assigned to that file and attended the meeting as well. So these are the priorities that our Students Association has set for this academic year. Master Campus Development Planning. So the college every few years goes through an exercise where they look into the future, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And this looks at all of our campuses, Ottawa, Pembroke, and Perth. And here in Pembroke, we've had some really good sessions with our employees and also some input from the city of Pembroke as well. And those recommendations will be forthcoming very soon from the group that has been working on this file, and you can expect to hear more about what that future planning might look like in terms of our facility, our needs moving forward, and where some investments will be made for our campus. Next slide. The exercise that we're going through right now at the Pembroke campus that we've started in the summer is really just looking at the next 5 years. So there is a strategic planning process that is happening for the entire college, which obviously we are part of as well. But we wanted to get a little bit more granular and speak to our employees about, you know, the things that they think we could do and perhaps continue doing, look at new opportunities, new partnerships. And so we chunked them out into 4 sections. One really is about people, culture, and belonging. Just like every other organization, we want to make sure that we retain the best possible employees, that we attract the best possible employees. And that means we have to continue to build a culture of a place where we know every single day we make a difference in the students that study with us. We are going to have to continue to strategically manage our enrollments into the future. We've had a very good enrollment this fall. What Jody didn't mention is we've got another enrollment coming up in the winter with 5 or 6 programs that will bring another 150 plus students to this community, some international, some domestic out of town, and some domestic local. And that will get us into that range of 950 to 1,000 students. And the data you just saw also did not include apprenticeship training. We run carpenter and electrical, which will both be running this fall, as well as academic upgrading. So it's a busy place with a very robust student population. But we have to continue to pay attention because the competition for students, for a variety of reasons, will continue to grow. Academic programming, we want to make sure that we're delivering the right programming at the right time for our local labor market and our regional labor market. And also for us, the unique programs matter because it allows us to attract students from outside of the region so we're not competing with other colleges. And we're going to continue to look at that as well. And partnerships, to me, is the secret sauce of this beautiful waterfront campus that we have. Partnerships with our host community, the city of Pembroke, but also partnerships with industry organizations, our Students Association, organizations that will help us fulfill our mission to transform hopes and dreams into lifelong success, but also to make this a more vibrant and prosperous community because we're going to make sure that we address the labor market challenges. I wanted to bring up a couple of other things. One, we just celebrated the 25th anniversary of our Outdoor Adventure program, and that was very, very special because Outdoor Adventure back in 1999, 2000, really paved the way for this campus to start thinking differently about its programming and to launch programs that weren't being offered anywhere else that would attract, at the time, domestic students, but now also attracting international students from around the world. So that was a special celebration. More than 100 alumni from across the country came back that weekend to Wilderness Tours, and we also established a new endowment, which is a bursary fund to support students in the Outdoor Adventure program who are in financial need. So when we look at outdoor adventure and other programs that we've launched since then, we look at where are the jobs moving forward, what makes our region unique in terms of labor market needs, what are our demographics, where are the pressure points, healthcare being an obvious example with an aging population here in Renfrew County, and where do we have strong partnerships that we can build on. Garrison Petawawa would be an example of that. I wanted to bring this to your attention because we've been getting a lot of feedback from municipalities across the region around some of the challenges to hire into areas like planning, snowplow operators I've heard. I've heard different staffing areas within municipalities where there has been a struggle to either attract or retain employees. Building inspectors would be another one that often comes up. So what we have done is try to get municipal leaders, both elected as well as staff, into a room for a really good conversation, a labor market forum on October 10th. It'll be happening here at the Best Western in Pembroke. We've brought in David Coletto from Abacus Data, who has done some good public opinion polling across Canada and will apply a small town lens on that about where some of the pressure points are from a labor force perspective. That will set the table for a conversation that we will then have with some of our municipal leaders and see if we can find some areas where there might be some best practices that could be shared or some opportunity for the local labor market group, which the college holds, does the work in that planning group, to try to see if we can help in some ways, either by pulling some data, creating some marketing materials, what have you, that will support municipalities in trying to address their workforce needs for the future. So I encourage you and the staff of the City of Pembroke to consider attending. I think we've got over 40 people from across the region right now, both elected officials as well as economic development officers, planning people, public works. So I think it's going to be a great, great day and a great conversation that is geared to municipalities. And finally, I wanted to bring to your attention, this is our 10th anniversary for our Fall Business Leadership Conference on October 24th. Also very strong registration at this point. Our keynote speaker this year will be retired General Rick Hillier. He'll be here in Pembroke at the campus that day to speak about leadership. If you're interested in artificial intelligence, and I think we all should be because it's here and going to evolve even more and change the way we live and work, we will also have Amber MacArthur here, who is a leading TV and podcast personality, who is a technology guru, and will be talking about the impact of artificial intelligence on work. And then there's a whole bunch of other workshops there around project management and mindfulness and mentorship and incorporating volunteerism into your workforce as a employee retention strategy, as well as welcoming newcomers and onboarding newcomers into your workforce. So that's going to be a great day. I know we have some City of Pembroke staff who have already signed up, and we're getting a great, great response from the business community as well. Next slide. And that's a quick update about what's happening at the Pembroke campus. But again, I just want to assure you that there's lots happening there, and we are doing our best. Sometimes we get a lot of requests and we can't deliver on them all, at least at this point in time, because we've got staff that are very, very busy and employees who are absolutely great, by the way. Our faculty and support staff and administration is top notch, and they work hard and they do great, great work for us. So I wanted to provide that update to you, and happy to take any questions you might have.
Jamie, questions from council? Councilor Purcell.
Thanks, Mr. Bremberger, for your presentation. I really appreciate it. And I just want to kind of more of a comment. I'm just so impressed in terms of the diverse demographic in terms of your enrollment. You know, when you talked about a total of 950 to 1,000 students, that's pretty impressive. And that contributes a lot to our community in regards to influx of everything. In terms of students. In terms of employment opportunities within our community as well, in terms of part-time, those kinds of things. So it's really, really important that we work together. And in terms of the partnerships, I know I came from CNL, and I know that one time we had some issues in regards to, attracting talent for various different positions, and I know that Algonquin College came forward with a radiation protection program, and that just goes to show you that the building these partnerships in terms of identifying a need, and these are really great jobs for individuals, right? With that are career jobs. So I really think that it's great. Parks and Recreation, I don't know if a lot of people know, I'm vice chair of Parks Recreation, but, you know, even the partnerships that we build, you know, in terms of building our benches down at the waterfront and the tables. We have a partnership with Algonquin College where we provide materials, and Algonquin College actually builds those benches for us. So these are the types of partnerships that we need to kind of continue. And, you know, when you're successful, we're successful as a community, and we're successful as a community, you guys are successful. So, you know, I had the pleasure of attending Algonquin College way back when. My wife was a nurse that actually was that attended Algonquin College, and I had family that attended Algonquin College, and I can't say anything. I can only say, you know, in terms of high regards for the school and the education that comes out of it, because it is a truly caring place where individuals feel, you know, that small campus feel, and they get the attention that they need, and of course they thrive through academia. So. Thank you again for your presentation, and you know, I'm looking forward to the Labor Market Forum. I'm signed up, and it'll be an opportunity to discuss, you know, how we can work together.
Thanks very much, Councillor Purcell. Appreciate the comments. Just one little sidebar. I was at the Upper Ottawa Valley Chamber of Commerce Awards Gala on Saturday night in Petawawa. I was struck by how many graduates of our campus were being recognized with awards or were there. It was just a really, really strong statement and a reminder about the impact this college has on this community in such a positive way. And I agree with you, and thank you for highlighting some of those community projects we're involved in, because our students' fingerprints, including our faculty, are on a lot of things in this community. And from trees that get trimmed down at Riverside to pavilions that are built at Rotary Park, Champlain Discovery High School, the shed that was built down at the waterfront, the waterfront boards, the boardwalk, everywhere. So it's really something for all of us to be very, very proud of, and I appreciate the recognition.
Jamie, Your Worship, we have Councillor Keel and Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, just to thank you for coming this evening, because it's important to provide that kind of information to the public, because I know the individuals around this table understand the great relationship between the college and the city of Pembroke. You've hit a number of different highlights in terms of tangible things that the college has done for the community. But I know that Councillor Keel and I recently attended last week and were welcomed and invited into Algonquin College to have a conversation with the college students to try and get a better understanding as to what are they looking for from the community. And it's all too often that you have you know, elected, or you have staff and so forth, and you're trying to figure out what it is at a lower level that the residents need or that the students need, and so sometimes it takes that kind of an opportunity to come together, have a discussion, and see it, you know, straight on, and to have individuals coming up to you and, so why did you do this, and what about this, and so it's just an opportunity to have that kind of a one-on-one, see it straight on from those particular students, because if there's one of them asking that question, odds are there's a number of them that are thinking it, and perhaps they're too shy. I know one student was dragging their friends into the room saying, no, you can talk to them, they don't bite, and it's all good. So I just want to say that it's so important to have these updates on a regular basis, so as to try and communicate that information to the public. And so certainly we are trying to do better, and I'm very appreciative of our CAO saying, you know, what if we try something like this, just to try and get that firsthand information and find out from your students exactly what they're looking for, and might not be able to deliver on some of the items, because I know we went around and looked at some of the boards already, don't have all the results in, but there are certain things that are doable, and it's like, so what can we do to make their experience better, safer, that sort of thing. And so really appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Mayor Jerva, and we appreciate that the city was open to do that, to ask for the feedback of our students, because that is how you build a more welcoming environment, already a welcoming environment, but even enhance that more. And that helps us too, because that helps us attract students. So thank you for that.
Councillor Keel, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you both for coming. The one good thing about going third is most of my stuff is knocked off the list, so that made it a lot easier. So obviously I echo everything that Councillor Purcell said, everything that the Mayor said. It was great to be at the college last week, meeting with the students. I noticed, while I was walking out with our CAO, it sort of struck me while we were there that, we don't really have a formal town gown committee or relationship or anything. So I couldn't commend our CAO more for wanting to reach out and to make that day happen, and of course on your end as well. From a higher level, I think the people of Pembroke need to know how monumentally important Algonquin College is in terms of our labor market, and it's not even a two-way street. It's more like a roundabout. I mean, not only are you providing very good jobs for people here in Pembroke, but the students that you have today are, as I think somebody said, working part-time jobs. Frankly, filling jobs that I know for a fact local business owners are having a hard time filling. And the reason I make this comment is because every now and then I find certain comments on Facebook to not only be racist but completely inaccurate when they're talking about Algonquin College, specifically Algonquin College students taking jobs. And they're not. I have so many business owners that are clients of mine at my office, and they're telling me how hard it is to find people to do a lot of these part-time jobs. And then you find Algonquin College students filling that, which presumably is giving them a benefit of having a part-time job to help pay for school. And it is absolutely benefiting our local businesses to have a student population to work those jobs. What's even better, though, is that one of the problems that I see, not just Pembroke having, but across rural areas, is we end up with the brain drain. So a lot of rural municipalities, we send kids off to get an education, and only some of them come back. We lose a lot of them when we do that. When you can have as many local residents in Renfrew County as you have providing them with an education, they're less likely to get caught up in the big city. They're more likely to actually stay local. And it was just today that I had a meeting with our economic development officer, telling her that one of the strategies that I would like us to look at in the next year or two is how we can, in fact, make our local students and our young persons proud of the Pembroke area, proud of the Renfrew County area, so that when they do go to school, they want to come back. Because we are certainly seeing right now, it's not just doctors, it's not just nurses, it's not just PSWs. I think the mayor would agree with me, we have a lawyer shortage in certain areas. We have contractors that can't find skilled trades. So the fact that you're offering this service locally and keeping these people local, I really don't know how you can, I don't know what to say about how important that is to our local economy. And yes, the little things, well, maybe they're not so little, but the building of the boardwalk and those kinds of things are important. But the economic importance of this college as a whole is monumental. And I certainly thank Algonquin College for making us one of their homes.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you.
Your Worship, could Jody just comment just quickly?
Sure,
Would that be
go ahead,
okay?
go ahead.
Go ahead, Jody.
Thank you. As a resident of Pembroke who left and made the decision to come back and have had the privilege of working at Algonquin College for over 15 years now, your words hit home. I think that there are so many opportunities outside of all the great points that you shared to really, truly communicate clearly to our graduates who have the top skills and have all of the necessary work-related, in a lot of cases, experience that we would like them to stay in this area. There's so much opportunity to really effectively communicate that and not let any of that brain drain happen upon graduation. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I just have a question and a comment. I might have a couple questions. Anyhow, did you mention pre-electrical program?
It's the electrical, it's level 1 apprenticeship is what we offer here, which is an 8-week block, level 1 of the apprenticeship program.
And when is that starting up?
October, carpenter and electrical both start around the same time. It's this fall.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the comment, same as everyone else. It's fabulous that we have a campus, academic campus in Pembroke. And I've had the pleasure of being council lead in transit for the last 4 years. And you, Jamie, you and I have had many discussions, and your students also. And we just came from that transit committee meeting. And so, how many international students will they have in January total?
Oh, well, right now we have 155 international students, and so we anticipate probably about 60 additional students
Right,
in
so over
January.
200.
Yes.
And they don't have a driver's license, and they need to get from point A to point B. So that leads into my next comment about partnerships, about how Pembroke needs transit, and if we want it to work, we need the partnership of the college, so it benefits everyone. And you talk about unique programs. My wife and I became friends with two former international students a few years ago, and they took the regulatory affairs program, the 1 year, 12 months course, very intensive, and they both found employment. They had prior university degrees. They were not from Canada, but they're employed now in Canada. And, they come for upgrading the 1 year program, and they both had part-time jobs while they took this intensive course. And when we had them over dinner a few times, they loved Pembroke, and they would love to come back if, but there's also like CNL, they might end up working there someday once they get more experience. So thanks again, and it's fantastic. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Abdallah. Just a couple of quick things. Obviously, we're very interested in the public transit conversation that is happening at the city because we have 5 privately owned and operated student residences that house our students, more than 200 beds. They're all filled this fall. And certainly public transit would help expand the footprint of where our students can live because many walk or bike. Also helps with part-time employment to get to and from. So we're obviously very interested. I know that the council has some decisions to make about this moving forward. I was pleased today that we had one of our student association directors because, as I mentioned, it is a priority for the student association at all of Algonquin College around transportation needs of students. And if I could just comment on something that Councillor Keel said about our international students. They are a gift to this community. They really are. They bring so much to our campus and to our community. I see them working in our stores, our businesses. I hear such great things from employers about their reliability, about their work ethic, about their commitment to Canada. And we see it every single day in the campus. It's just, they're great, great people. And, I think our domestic students, beyond what we teach, are learning so much by being in a multicultural environment that's going to prepare them for the future. It's absolutely wonderful. It's special. It really is. And if you want to experience that, spend some time in a lunch hour in our commons and look at the diversity in that space. It's fantastic.
Thank you. If I may, from the chair, I do have a certificate from Algonquin College, believe it or not. Many years ago, before the computer rage, I took a DOS operating systems course for 6 weeks, and I didn't have a clue what they were talking about for 6 weeks. But I graduated summa cum laude. I got 85, and I said to the instructor, I still don't understand what you're talking about. She said, it's a very technical language. You will. And I think what it did, it gave me the introduction to how computers worked in the long run. But I have that certificate. It's hanging on my wall in my rec room. I look at it every once in a while. But I also must comment on the international students. Wherever I see an international student or someone I think's an international student, I'll make a point of speaking to them. One young lady was Algonquin College at Giant Tiger. She was on a cash, and I said to her, where are you from? She said, I'm from India. And I said to her, you're going to Algonquin College? She said, of course. And then she said, I'm very lonely. And I looked at her, and you're 6,000 to 7,000 miles away from your folks, a young lady, and she's just expressing her feelings. But then she said to me, but the folks at Algonquin College don't make me feel so lonely. And that spark you're talking about, there's a spark that the students have. but the staff also has a spark because you give them back that confidence that they need when they're 8,000 miles away from home. They don't have anybody to confer with, but they have, the dedicated teachers and their fellow students at the college. So it's wonderful. I think that Lou Hamill will attest to the fact that he has many students working in his establishment. They bring professionalism, courtesy, and a great workforce too. People are reaching out, as Councillor Keel said. So, again, thank you very much. And we know there's an arborist course here as well. I think I mentioned this last year when we were here. A couple from Winnipeg brought their son here. There was no course in Winnipeg. So where are they? In Pembroke, spending 7 days in a hotel, bringing their kid here and their son here. Thank you very much, Interim Dean Jamie Bramberger, and of course your lovely assistant for coming here today, and Jody. For selling our community and selling Algonquin College. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
The next order of business, under new business, will be the bylaw enforcement request of 58 Pembroke Street West, 120 Lake Street and 227 Lake Street and 185 Prince Street by Sinner Capital. Ms. Soriel, good evening.
Good evening. So in 2022, Sinner Capital was granted the ability to ticket vehicles at 58 Pembroke Street West, 120 Lake Street, 227 Lake Street, and 185 Prince Street. Sinner Capital is now requesting that the employee that was granted the authority to issue tickets be removed and replaced by a new employee, Crystal Sims. Approval to enforce private parking has been granted by council due to the fact that enforcement is especially needed during evening and weekend hours, as this is when the parking issues typically occur in these apartments. So the fine for a parking ticket issued within these private lots without permission is $50. And as part of this approval, the owner has agreed to enter into an agreement with the city ensuring the following conditions: that the issuing of the parking parking tickets for these 4 properties also includes preparing for and attending provincial offences court as required. They must deal with any complaints regarding the parking tickets issued for these properties, to provide a progress report on a quarterly basis, to pay the cost of purchasing parking ticket books, to erect signage, and to notify the city immediately if there are any changes associated with the person issuing the tickets. So the city is responsible for the receiving and administration of the parking tickets, as well as the processing, the payments of said tickets. And all revenues from these tickets are retained by the city to offset the above costs as per the conditions of approval. A bylaw is before council this evening, so that if the bylaw is granted, that the new employee can start issuing tickets immediately.
Questions of Ms. Soriel in regards to the matter? Seeing none, I guess, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. I know that this has been going on for a number of years, and I understand the rationale why and that sort of thing. Just, do you have any concerns, issues that we should know about before we move forward and have this individual installed?
Through you, we offer a training program to each of the bylaw enforcement officers for each of these private properties, and we've had no issues in the past, and we're anticipating no issues going forward.
Questions? Seeing none? Be before council tonight. Next item, waterfront development, next steps. Ms. Sutherland. Or whoever. Mr. Unruh, are you doing that one? Or is she just in the wings? Good evening, Ms. Sutherland. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Very good. You'll bring us up to date on this item on the waterfront development. Please?
Yep. So the recommendation is that the committee directs staff to initiate an RFP process to obtain a consultant to structure a strategy for leased land development at the Pembroke Waterfront Park. Furthermore, that upon conclusion of the RFP process, that staff bring forward the options for committee for consideration. So, as way of background, in 2016, committee directed staff to rezone 2 parcels of land adjacent to the Ottawa River at the Waterfront Park to allow for future development. From there, staff also completed a number of assessments and programs that, with no significant concerns cited, committee then directed staff to market the lands for sale or for lease by first determining what interest there would be through an expression of interest process. So that started in the spring of 2019, was delayed due to the flooding that year, so went in the summer and closed that September. At that time, the city received 1 response, and council directed staff to move forward with that group on their concept. Then staff and council worked with and negotiated with that group from 2019 to 2023 until ultimately the group pulled out of the project. Currently, only one of the parcels, the one that is labeled parcel 2 in the package, which is presently the marina parking lot area, is available, as the parcel 1 has been made into the Arboretum. Council in the past has indicated it is not interested in selling the land, but only in leasing it. So then council directed staff to look at what options could exist for securing development on leased land, on parcel 2, sorry, that's a typo. Staff reached out to a consultant for information on what the process would entail and the cost to determine these options. To look at the history of the project, develop detailed options to structure a partnership between the city and a private developer, to consult with stakeholders, and to prepare the report. The estimated cost is around $50,000. So staff is seeking direction on how to move forward. There are 4 options listed here. The first being to go through the request for proposal process to seek these options, to forego the deal structuring consultation and go through another expression of interest process, to forego the deal structuring consultation and market the lands as a development opportunity and see if any interest comes in, or to do nothing with the parcel. In terms of financial implications, this is dependent on council's direction. Currently, there's $5,000 in the 2024 Economic Development non-recurring budget for the waterfront development project. The Industrial Land Reserve also has a balance of $61,113 as of June 2024, which could be accessed for the project consultation costs as well.
Thank you. Questions from council? Councillor Keel, His Worship.
Few questions. Number 1, what do we usually use the Industrial Land Reserve budget for? Apparently
That's a
nothing that
question
important.
for the treasurer. She indicated to me that it could be, we use it for when we are doing things with our lands, but I don't know the extent of what other scenarios would exist for that reserve.
That question was kind of related to whether that's an important reserve or not, but I'm getting the feeling it's not that important. From your perspective, I'm just thinking about how to go about this. Okay. I know what I'm thinking, and some of it was closed session. Okay, so if there was to be development, and obviously if I think I can go with. So if there's going to be development of the land and we don't want to sell the land, obviously we're talking about leasing the land to somebody and asking them to build a commercial building of some sort. So at the end of the day, I would suspect that part of the problem is the financing. Because obviously it's a lot easier to get a mortgage on your own property when you own it than it would be possibly for a developer to finance something that's on our owned land that they're leasing. So is that where you see the value in this consultant, since I think you are talking about like the financial structure and whatnot? So knowing that is a large issue to this development, is that where you see the importance of this consultant?
Sure. Thanks for the question. So, yes, I am not a financial expert, but there are consultants who work in this every day in development of large scale, small scale, all across the spectrum. So, in discussing with the consultant, for example, just to get the information about what an estimated cost would be to go through this process, they indicated that there are several options that could exist in this in a leased environment, for example. So they have access to that knowledge and how to build it out in order to make it attractive to development in a way that I don't have that knowledge in-house.
Okay, so to me, I would really like to see a development of our waterfront. I think during the campaign, I would say to council that this was, obviously it was one of my campaign items, which is probably why I received so much feedback on it. But what I will say about that is that it was all very positive. And we, strangely, in my opinion, I mean, we're coming up on our 200th anniversary in a few years, and seemingly in 200 years, nobody has thought to put some sort of restaurant, bar, social establishment on our waterfront. And I just can't help but think that we would be hard-pressed to find another municipality on a beautiful waterfront that has nothing like that. I mean, it kind of shocks me that we are where we are today in 2024, and we have no such development on our waterfront. So for me personally, I think this is something worth investing in. If I do have concerns, and I will say this to you, Heather, it's that I'm starting to get irked by the number of studies and RFP, like the amount of money we spend to get to the end. But at the same time, I think this is something that we should invest in. I think it is complicated by the fact that we don't want to sell, and that this is, this is a little different than just saying, hey, we have waterfront available, does anybody want it? I would imagine that would be an easier sell than what we're talking about. So in that regard, and based on what you've said about our in-house knowledge on how to go about this, I think this is a project that we should see through. I think it's a project we should keep moving. And in that regard, I'm prepared to invest in moving it forward. But at the end of the day, I just want to see something get done. I don't want us to, I want us to be careful in what we're spending our money on, and not get bogged down in structural processes. So that's my concern, but frankly, I'm fully behind the concept of getting something done down at the waterfront.
Thank you. Mayor Gervais, and then Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to suggest a fifth option, but before we get there, and similar to what Councillor Keel is saying or not saying, it's trying to comment on it, on things that we can comment on. So we know that there was a request for proposal that was put out previously. I'm struggling that prior to that, I'm aware that the council of the day was trying to figure out a plan forward in respect to this property. So that's kind of loosey-goosey, but that's about as much as I'm willing to say without running afoul of certain things. But it's not that it hasn't been lost on prior councils of that we have this awesome waterfront, and so what are we doing about it? In fact, I know that there's been individuals that have approached me, one particular fellow that's been to council chambers before that's from the town of Petawawa, and he said he was commenting about what we had that was nicer than Petawawa and what Petawawa had that was nicer than Pembroke. But anyways, but we were having a discussion about the waterfront. And yes, whenever I was reading the report, and I'm trying to remember what it was that we hired a consultant for, but it was $50,000, and that just keeps nagging me, similar to I think what it's doing to Councillor Keel is like, well, there's $50,000, and what did we get? And as was pointed out to me by an individual that I spoke to about this particular item, is that there's been reports sometimes, time and again, and then sometimes it gets dusty because we don't act on it. So my fifth option that I guess what I was going to suggest it, and it's not to kick it there to let it die a death or anything. It's to try and get some minds around the particular topic and find some solutions and move it forward, was to create an ad hoc committee and to have someone like Fred Blackstein on it. Fred, who has talked to us previously about phase one being by the people, for the people, bringing together different individuals, not costing the city of Pembroke funds to make certain things happening, to phase two in terms of the Arboretum, and not to suggest that this item is different. It isn't about creating green space. It isn't about bringing people there necessarily just to walk and so forth. It's about to create some sort of space that achieves a purpose, whether it's restaurants and so forth. So it's bringing people there, but it's also it's deriving economic benefit and just continuing on with a course of action that it's already been in play that makes Pembroke what it is. People coming from all over the place saying what a beautiful waterfront. So anyways, I'm throwing out that as a fifth option is some sort of ad hoc committee, having someone like Fred Blackstein on it and not necessarily hiring another consultant at $50,000 to have dust collect on whatever report is generated from that.
Councillor Purcell, Councillor Abdallah. Deputy Mayor, excuse me.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to see a development at the waterfront. I really would. I think it's important because, I mean, really in terms of, beautiful waterfront we had. We were all down the Rib Fest this past weekend, and you can kind of see the jewel that we have. There are concerns in terms of having development down there in regards to parking and boat launch and those kinds of things. And that parcel too is not as big as what we think. And when you start adding, the parking spaces, and one can only imagine just on the weekend that those parking spaces were filled for Ribfest. So we have this beautiful, space, but really no place for individuals to park to enjoy that space, such as what we saw on Ribfest. That being said, pleasure craft coming from the water, wouldn't it be nice for them to, to dock and, enjoy an evening, a nice supper, maybe some retail, those kinds of things too. My concern too is also paying $50,000 when we don't really know or have a tenant. So $50,000 just to pursue that and look at that. I just don't know, you think that property would market itself. There's opportunity there. And I just don't know the value that a consultant will bring. I'm just not sold on it. And then in some cases, then, forego the deal, and then just, wait until, any other interest comes up. Because I'm really concerned in terms of the use of that land. It's land that will never get back. If you develop it, that's going to be a development that's going to be there for 50, 100 years. God only knows. And it's kind of swayed my mind. And I actually, looked at, whenever I was campaigning as well, was looking at development of waterfront, but it really wasn't looking at that particular area. It was looking at, another area, and utilizing like condominium developments and those kinds of things that would actually bring some more economic prosperity to our downtown. But I think right now I just can't support another consultant. I think we've been consulting to death this year, and I think that we just kind of maybe just park it for now and see what comes out.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. We have to be careful in what we do with this property. We need to make sure that any development, there's a long-term plan looked at possibly. You have to look at the whole package. The Pembroke Marina, is that going to expand with government funds maybe? You have to look at the whole parcel of land to make sure you have enough parking spaces for the boat trailers at the back, and as Councillor Purcell was talking, enough parking spaces also. So at this point, I can't support $50,000 for a consultant. I was going to go with option 2, but I think the mayor has pointed out ad hoc committee. We already have a waterfront advisory committee that Fred Blackstein chairs. So I don't see another purpose in creating another committee. But if anything, I'd like to put this towards the Waterfront Advisory Committee and for their feedback, and then have it come back to council. Councillor Keel and I sit on that committee. So I'd like to motion that we put this to the Waterfront Advisory Committee for their feedback and then act on it and look at it again,
Is that a motion on the floor?
if I have a seconder.
Before you make your motion,
Yes.
we have the CEO had his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring to council's attention that one of the items that we were trying to solve with the consultant was the financial side of it. And so in growing to the ad hoc committee, although there's a lot of great minds around that, I think it'll be idea generating and will not solve the financial. So, you know, the thought could be is that hire a consultant at a lower rate, but then also consult with the waterfront development. And it's just,
Well, okay, then I'll make a motion for option 2, to put an expression of interest, determine interest, potentially move forward with a new negotiation.
Would you repeat that, Deputy Mayor? Are you making a go ahead.
Motion to accept option 2, forgo the deal structuring consultation and go through another expression of interest to determine interest and potentially move forward with a new negotiation. That'll start a conversation. We'll see before we spend money on a consultant.
We have a motion on the floor. Seconder? No seconder. The motion does not fly. Mr. Keel?
Okay, a lot of stuff just happened there. So my concern is I think what the CEO just expressed. I mean, I agree with everything that everybody said, and I'm trying to hope that we can come to some consensus that moves forward. The closest thing that I have heard that I like would be the mayor's ad hoc committee. With respect to the deputy mayor, the waterfront committee is not even remotely qualified to look at what we're talking about. With all due respect, we're not talking about planting flower beds, and we're not talking about installing a fountain, and we're not talking about those kinds of things. I mean, the waterfront committee has some great people on it, but that is not the group of people that I would personally look to in terms of setting up a financing lease to build a building with commercial and or residential stuff. So I would support the mayor in creating an ad hoc committee, which I think we would maybe be looking at, you know, we'd maybe be looking at a realtor, we'd maybe be looking at somebody in economic development, looking at other things. So if that's the direction we want to go to keep this moving forward in the background of council, I would prefer that we strike an ad hoc committee that the mayor can recommend people be on. That's the closest thing to what I would like to do.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couldn't agree with Councillor Keel more. What I'm thinking is a group, like there's got to be individuals in our community that love the community as much as we do, that's willing to come together to assist us in getting past these stumbling blocks. And so I don't know off the top of my head who exactly those individuals are, but we would, in between now and then, figure out who those individuals are, pull them together and have like a dream team that's going to figure out what our solution is and not pay $50,000. That's all I was thinking. So if Councillor Keel made that motion, I would second.
Motion, Councillor Keel?
Yes. To create an ad hoc waterfront development committee.
We have a seconder, seconded by Councillor. Do we have a seconder on the motion, seconded by the mayor? A discussion, Councillor Keel, Purcell.
Maybe just for my own interest, can you give me a summary in terms of how we marketed this particular piece of property thus far?
I could pass that through to staff. I'm not aware of, we have had an ad hoc motion to promote it, other than what we've seen before our council meetings, based on other developers that have been here asking, making requests. Could you comment on that, Ms. Sutherland, or?
So for the expression of interest process, we curated a list of developers, realtors, people from across, mostly in sort of GTA, Montreal, Ottawa region, and directly contacted them with the opportunity, as well as had that on our website at the time.
Be perhaps advantageous that members of council would have perhaps a short list of who those people were, so we could better understand, as Councillor Purcell is indicating, who are they and what do they want?
Just in terms of just, even common knowledge for even the ratepayers or the residents of the city of Pembroke, in terms of an expression of interest, I don't recall seeing one. Now, this was previously to me being on council. I'm just talking as a resident. And maybe that's some of the issues, is just that, we haven't got the depth in terms of, getting it to the right hands of those individuals. Again, I guess the ad hoc committee would determine, what the best approach is to make that land more marketable. So I can support the ad hoc committee. Sometimes I think we kind of, we miss a few steps. I feel we've sometimes missed a few steps in terms of, doing everything possible just to promote, some of the properties that we have available for development. And I think maybe there's just an opportunity to do a little bit more there.
Speaking of the thank you, Councillor Purcell. Speaking of the motion, we may be very surprised at the expertise that we have within our community that is not relevantly from here, but has immigrated here from Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal. There are people living here that have vast experience. I think we should put out some sort of an expression of interest to see if there are people that would want to come forward that have knowledge. They may say, well, I was the design engineer on a waterfront in Toronto or Mississauga, wherever it was. There are people living here, but I think we have to put that out to the public. And not saying that our own people don't have knowledge. And I can remember a number of years ago, I think Mayor McCann at the time had hired a consultant, and there was a consultant's report this thick. And it still exists. I'm sure there's more than one in regards to waterfront development. And I think many of the things that were recommended in those reports have come to fruition today. Maybe we should take another look rather than spending $50,000 and put it together, have some key people involved, and put it out to the public. Maybe someone that we don't know of that would love to give us some input and help us along the path and save us $50,000 is sitting on our doorstep. Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, the motion is on the floor. Can we repeat the motion, please? Been a lot of chat.
That the Planning and Development Committee strike an ad hoc waterfront development committee to structure an expression of interest for parcel 2. And is there anything else I should be adding?
Striking committee, strikes committee. This is action to be brought forward for recommendation based, and then we'll come back to council, I believe. Is that okay? Those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. Next item, declaration of surplus lands. Ms. Sutherland.
Thank you. So this is an information item. In January of this year, committee reviewed a list of city-owned lands that could potentially be declared surplus and made available for sale and development. Committee at the time approved 8 parcels of land to be included in a surplus land inventory. Information on these parcels is available on the city's website. These parcels need to be declared surplus to be disposed of as per the sale and disposition of land policy. A resolution to that effect will be before you this evening during council meeting.
Questions? Seeing none, thank you. Anything else to add this evening? Very good, thank you. Our next item will be the Warming Center, 2024-2025. Mr. Unraw?
Yes, thank you. That the recommendations are that the City of Pembroke and Planning and Development Committee approve the expenditure of $100,000 for the 2024-2025 Warming Center, and furthermore, that the committee appoint Mayor Gervais and Councillor Troy Purcell to the County of Renfrew Warming Center Ad Hoc Committee. So for background, on September 25th, the County Council approved a motion to stand up the Warming Center Ad Hoc Committee to invite the municipalities that participated last year. So that was the City of Pembroke, Laurentian Valley, and the Town of Petawawa. That the staff be directed to work with the City of Pembroke on an appropriate location that provides for a more cohesive and effective delivery of service, and that the City of Pembroke initiate the appropriate steps with respect to their zoning bylaw, and that staff be directed to apply the allocated funds from the Homelessness Prevention Program funding envelope towards this initiative to a maximum of $100,000. At the time of writing this report, it was anticipated that both the Town of Petawawa and the Township of Laurentian Valley would be bringing it forward at their respective meetings on October 7th and October 8th. However, that has not been confirmed because there were some discussions back and forth late last week. So the financial implications, so that the 2023-2024 budget for the City of Pembroke was $100,000. There is $50,000 unallocated in contingency for 2024, and the remaining could be budgeted in 2025. Open up to any questions.
Councillor Kale?
So I'm not going to support this at this time. I'm not saying I'm going to shut it down. I think what I would like to do is table it until we get more information. So basically, last year the Warming Center, can someone remind, our contribution was $100,000. Can someone remind me what the total? 220. So last year we spent $220,000 on the initiative. This report suggests that we spend another $220,000. So that's $420,000. At this point, we could have built a house. So I don't know where we're going with this. Last year, I voted against it because we didn't know what we were getting into yet, and I feel like we're doing the same thing here again. We're being asked to approve $100,000. We don't have a plan in front of us. We don't have an agreement in front of us. We don't have a budget in front of us. Last year, the grind was the appointed appointed company to run the thing, and currently the City of Pembroke might be in litigation with them. So I have concerns about who's running the system. When we ended up getting the report back last year, we found, I think it was tens of thousands of dollars spent on food, which was not what I thought a warming center was for. We certainly don't fund food banks and whatnot in the summers and whatnot. I pointed out a number of concerns that I had with specific items in the budget, including that the grind billed us for a out of the cold banner for one of their fundraisers. That had nothing to do with the warming center. I understand from Councillor Purcell, I think that was withdrawn after concerns were raised. So at this point in time, I think we're putting the cart before the horse. We don't have anything in front of us other than we want to run a warming center again and we want your $100,000. So I'm not going to support it right now. I'm not saying that I'm not going to support it ever, but at this point in time, I think we need and should have a lot more information before we spend another $100,000. And this report on this day is not even remotely close to meeting what I think we should have before we spend that kind of money.
Deputy Mayor, Councillor Purcell and Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Councillor Keel. There are some discrepancies. I know that there's been some issues. I know that the warming center was typically, discussed at the Health Committee, which I sit as a representative on the Health Committee. That's changed to community services now. So it's difficult when you aren't present in the various different committees where some of the decisions are being made in terms of the allocations of such funding and locations and those kinds of things, and then to sit on a warming committee. So it's difficult. So there's different information that's at different committee levels. So that's one of my concerns. And then the other concern is that, you know, there's a threat of litigation with the grind, and in terms of the information that we received thus far is that the grind may be an operator of the warming center. So that is a concern. And I do think that it's probably an opportune time to just postpone it until some clarity comes in regards to the location. Because I think I have a lot of concerns with point number 4 as well, with respect to their zoning bylaw, allow flexibility on the placement of the warming center. Well, where is it going to be located? There's different locations that have been looked at and proposed, but really there hasn't been any confirmation in terms of the location. So until we kind of get a little bit more clarity, I think it's wise that we just postpone and then look for some clarity from the county.
Deputy Mayor?
Point of information. So,
Yes, go ahead.
do we have a representative on the social justice?
Yes, it's me.
Oh,
Yes.
do we have do you have a report for?
No, not
what
at
the-
this time.
Okay.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
To authorize $100,000 with the information in front of me, I can't support the expenditure. I want to support a warming center for this year, but there has to be a better solution down the road, like next year. We know that this is all across Canada, this issue of homelessness. But I'd like to know more information. So you're asking for 2 committee members, so I could make a motion to table the whole thing, or I can make 2 separate motions to appoint the mayor and Councillor Purcell to the committee. That's my first motion. I'm gonna get a seconder.
We have a motion on the floor by Deputy Mayor to appoint 2 individuals to
To
the
Mayor
committee.
Gervais and Councillor Troy Purcell to the County and Renfrew Warming Center Ad hoc Committee.
Does that come under the striking committee, Deputy Mayor?
Well, it's in the report to appoint Mayor Gervais and Councillor Troy Purcell.
Okay, very good. Seconder, Councillor Keel. Further discussion? Your worship?
Just to say that while I recognize that you sit on that other committee, if we're not at the table, I agree with what the motion is, because if we're not at the table, things are discussed and so forth that, and it's no disrespect to the new way of doing minutes, but the new way of doing minutes is very sparse. And so I find sometimes if I miss a meeting and I'm reading minutes, I don't have a sense of what was being talked about other than discussion was held. Anyways, so I agree with what this particular motion is, because I think you need someone there. It's not saying that anyone's coming there with money. It's coming there to try and understand and get information.
The motion, again, please.
The motion is to appoint Mayor Gervais and Councillor Troy Purcell to the County and Renfrew Warming Center Ad hoc Committee.
The motion's on the floor by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. Further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Against? Carried.
Okay, and I'm going
It's carried.
to second motion to table the $100,000 expenditure.
Motion to table, seconded by Councillor Keel. The motion is tabled.
Well, we have to vote on it.
Oh, sorry. Those in favor? No discussion, thank you. All in favor, it's passed. Adjourned by Councillor Keel. Seconder, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Welcome to our October 1st Finance and Administration Committee meeting. Call the meeting to order. Is there a disclosure of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? Carried. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 3rd? Motion by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Giacono. Those in favor? Carried. Any business arising over minutes? Seeing none. New business, we welcome Chief Sell for your monthly September Pembroke Fire Department report. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in September, schools took priority. Holy Name Cathedral have reached out to us to assist and provide feedback for their fire drills as well. And the platoons also to continue to work through their portfolios. The month began with Fiddle Park. Final numbers of trailers that were reported to us were 251. This is a drop of 55 trailers from last year. 10 smoke alarms and 11 batteries were replaced versus the 24 alarms and 27 batteries last year. So of the trailers that entered the park this year, 8% were non-compliant in comparison to 17% non-compliance rate we saw last year. The smoke alarms and batteries are provided to non-compliant campers at the gate for a fee. The last pre-COVID event, was 2019, where we saw 400 plus trailers. During that time, there was 10 smoke alarms and 6 batteries replaced. So you can see in that time frame from no Fiddle Park event to once again our smoke alarm campaign at the gate. You can see the numbers went up for non-compliance, and through that program, it's going down once again. So I think that's a successful prevention campaign on our part. Our smoke alarm program continues to focus on the McKay Street. Now we are into the multi-unit buildings on McKay Street, and we will be expanding out along the corridor streets. Including Holy Name Cathedral Schools, the Pembroke Fire Department conducted 7 fire drills this month. Our annual fire drills and inspections are underway also at the Renfrew County housing units. 4 buildings have been completed and 2 are outstanding for October. A fire drill was also conducted at Bernadette McCann House. We conducted 1 tour for the Pembroke Regional Hospital Community Mental Health Team. Public safety messaging on Pure Country focused on back to school, and we continue to promote fire prevention in the Eganville Leader. Test Your Smoke Alarm Day was September 28th. Mayor Gervais proclaimed this day as Test Your Smoke Alarm Day in the city of Pembroke. We advertised on the digital display at the PMC, on the city's website, our social media pages, and through a media release. We recorded spots with MyFM and Pure Country to deliver key messages on that day, as well as Your TV was kindly running the segment that we produced last year on how to test and inspect your smoke alarms in your home. So fire deaths do continue to stay high in the province of Ontario, and we're hoping by this Test Your Smoke Alarm Day, we start to reverse that trend. On our social media channels, we celebrated Firefighters of the Month for August and shared information from the City of Pembroke. We continued to share environmental warnings and pertinent fire safety information, and also, like discussed earlier, the Test Your Smoke Alarm Day program. And as well, we started advertising our Fire Prevention Week and our open house. And we hope that everybody has seen our Where's Sparky photo for 2024. And just like to remind everybody that the ballots can be filled out only at the open house. And if your name is drawn, you can win a fantastic prize pack donated by our fantastic members of the Pembroke community. On our Facebook page, we reached 25,000 users, engaged with over 3,800, and acquired 12 new followers. So currently we're at 1,021 followers on Facebook. So this year's Fire Prevention Week theme is Smoke Alarms, Make Them Work for You. Being prepared to act in the event of a fire can start with simply pressing the test button, having the confidence that your smoke alarm is going to work in your home. Lives will be saved by regularly testing smoke alarms once a month, refreshing batteries at least once a year, and replacing your smoke alarms when they're older than 10 years. So our schedule of events has been released on our social media pages, and we'll be displaying the information on the digital sign at the PMC as well as the City of Pembroke website. So this year we'll kick off Fire Prevention Week with Mayor Gervais and Sparky, and do the ceremonial puck drop at the Pembroke Lumber Kings game on October 6th. That night, we will also be having a booth in the smoke alarm exchange program at the game. And the Pembroke Professional Firefighters Association has kindly stepped forward to donate to the kids' Chuck a Puck event held at the game. Information booths and smoke alarm exchange will be conducted on Tuesday, October 8th at the West End Plaza outside No Frills entrance, Wednesday, October 9th at Giant Tiger at the Alexander Street entrance, and Thursday, October 10th at the Pembroke Mall. The booths will run from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. On Tuesday, October 8th, Sparky and staff will participate in Fire Prevention Week activities at the Pembroke Public Library. We'll be leading story time, followed by a safety talk and presentation to the children. Finally, we'll close out our week with our annual open house, sponsored by the Pembroke Professional Firefighters Association on October 12th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. We are also running our Firefighter for the Day contest at the local schools. So the grade 3 and 4 students are challenged to produce fire safety messaging or slogans. The winning students will have their slogans displayed on the Pembroke Fire Department truck, and will get to spend an afternoon at the fire hall working and training with the firefighters. So we'll be conducting fire drills at all the city schools, promoting the need for escape planning and practicing. As the week is short, I also wanted to get back into the schools doing fire safety presentations similar to what we did with Emergency Preparedness Week. I thought that was a very successful events. So because the week is so short, we've already started those fire safety presentations in the school. And thus far, we've seen 95 students and 6 adults at Cathedral, Holy Name, Lourdes, and we've done a presentation to 14 students at the AMNA Student Living. If you remember, Mr. Bramberger had discussed the residents, particularly for Algonquin College students, and we are planning to do presentations to those students as well in this fall. To acknowledge the hard work and dedication and professionalism of our staff, Firefighter of the Month goes to Firefighter Riley Poirier. Riley fills a very valuable role at the Pembroke Fire Department with professionalism and diligence. His positive and professional attitude is greatly appreciated. Riley also represented the Pembroke Fire Department in the inaugural Emergency and Protective Services United event. The Volunteer of the Month goes to Trevor Popke. Trevor achieved all training requirements this month, working effectively with his team during training evolutions. So congratulations to Riley and Trevor. We have welcomed a new co-op student at the Pembroke Fire Department for the fall semester. Mr. Ben Krantz is a grade 12 student from Bishop Smith Catholic High School, and he aspires to have a career in firefighting. So we look forward to introducing Ben to the fire service. And also in September, we completed the hiring process, and we are welcoming actually 5 new volunteers to our fire department ranks. Lydia, Peyton, Brandon, Renee, and Eric have all started training this evening, about an hour ago. So we welcome them, and we look forward to working with them. Courses and seminars, staff have completed the Resilient Minds course as part of our PTSD program. Staff are also in the process of completing recertification for our first aid, CPR, AED, and bleed control. That training recertification will wrap up by the end of October. There were no vulnerable occupancy drills or inspections this month. An emergency management program committee meeting was held in September, and the results of that meeting hopefully will be coming forward to council in terms of an updated response plan for the city. The EOC training room hosted our training sessions and department meetings, as well as hosted the Community Safety Working Group, which was held in September. Along with the first aid recertification and the program committee meeting, the room also hosted the Renfrew County Fire Chiefs Association and Community Watch. The training room also hosted a TELUS mental health training session as well in September. Equipment and operations. Our new Stanley rescue boat has arrived and is ready to be unveiled at the open house. Training on the new boat is underway. Quotation Q24-5 was awarded this month for the purchase of structural firefighting gear. Again, this is the first time the department has purchased gear in this manner. The purchase was an approved capital purchase for 2024, and the project has come in slightly under budget. Training for the month of September is outlined. You can see in the recreational open air burning our increase in renewals for the month of September. We saw 22 renewals. Our smoke alarm program, the numbers are actually quite positive for September. We conducted 8 inspections and 23 smoke alarms were tested, and they all worked perfectly fine. Our inspections and consultations, we saw 126 inspections and consultations this month, with 33 violations found and 15 repaired. Incident types, we did have 2 fires in September. By the way, this report doesn't include last week, the incident we had last week. So a total of 37 responses for September. And our letters of warning, we saw 6 in September with 2 fines issued and 1 fine paid with 3 fines outstanding.
Thank you, Chief. Do we have any questions or comments on the Chief's report?
Thank you, Chief, for your report. I just wanted to say thank you for all your staff and their hard work and keeping us safe. And I know that you guys go above and beyond every day in terms of making sure that that you're ready and able to respond to an event. So there was one you said about the dollar loss because of the event that happened last week. So that would change the dollar loss. Can you just explain again, you said they're under budget for the equipment purchase. There was a quotation, the structural firefighting gear. Just kudos to the projects came slightly under budget, so it's not something we hear very often. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Good work.
Councillor Keel.
I just want to also extend my thanks for the work that your firefighters did at Fiddle Park. That's that's a big destination event for us here in the city of Pembroke, and to keep them safe and we basically set up a temporary trailer park where one doesn't usually exist. So I was down there. I think most nights I was down there, and I met with your firefighters. I watched them perform some very efficient inspections, and just the way they reached out to some of our visitors impressed me greatly. So I thank you for that. My only negative comment is the firefighter for a day is only open to 3rd and 4th graders. What if Councillor Jacquino and I wanted to get in on that? I think it might be a little discriminatory.
Through you, Mr. Chair. There is potential there. We could have a discussion. We do like hot lunches.
My only comment is, as an educator, I think it's great your involvement with the schools and the firefighter contests, even though these two won't be able to compete in it. But every time we go to the open house, I always kid you. I always talk to you about the slogans and how great they are and effective, and it's really good to see you have a co-op student, that wants to be a firefighter, and what an opportunity to get hands-on experience in Pembroke and for a high school student. So thank you for that. Councillor Jacquino.
Thank you, Chief. Can't reiterate what's been said. Guys do a good job. I do have one question about Sparky. Has he had his license renewed? I know you're renewing all kinds of licenses, but does Sparky not need a license because he's under the fire code, right?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I did speak to them downstairs, and they did give me an exemption on the dog tag.
Thank you very much. I just want to make sure it's fair for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next item. Aerial fire truck service agreement with Town of Petawawa, Chief Sell.
Direction from committee is required concerning this agreement. At this time, staff is recommending retracting the proposed agreement. So in early 2024, discussions between the City of Pembroke and the Town of Petawawa regarding an agreement that would allow the Town of Petawawa access to our aerial apparatus during an emergency began. An agreement similar to the one in place with Laurentian Valley was presented to the council in July. The agreement provided for a means of cost recovery for the city of Pembroke and ensured the city would be compensated, for the use of our equipment and services by the town of Petawawa over the term of the agreement. Council requested changes to the agreement at the conclusion of the July report. These changes were incorporated into the agreement and sent to the town of Petawawa. The updated agreement was included in the agenda package with council's recommendations highlighted, and I believe that was on page 3. So at this time, Petawawa will not accept the proposed agreement. So financial implications, as no agreement has been reached, there will be no loss of potential revenue from the annual fee is offset by removing response potentials and the increased use of the aerial truck supporting the town of Petawawa. With no agreement in place with the town of Petawawa, Pembroke Fire Department will continue to look for alternate approaches to build, strengthen, and maintain cross-boundary municipal partnerships.
Mr. Keel?
So obviously, I think it goes without saying that when it comes to emergency action and stuff, we all want to be good neighbors here in the county of Renfrew, but at the same time, so when I first read the report, without scrolling down, I went back and found the old one and then found out that the chief was nice enough to attach it right there for us. I didn't have a problem with the changes that we, around this table, recommended and consulted. It was for the protection of our own liability and the protection of our vehicles and financial protection for us. I'm a little surprised that that the changes that we did make offended our colleagues down the road. But at this point in time, I wouldn't change my mind with respect to my thoughts then and to the changes that we made. So if that's not something that they're willing to accept, then I think I would agree with the recommendation that we just withdraw the agreement from, I guess, discussion purposes. At the end of the day, these aren't cheap vehicles we're talking about. The firefighters themselves are highly skilled, and if one of them was to hurt themselves on another job, that would cost us greatly, both in terms of manpower but also financially speaking. So I want to be a helpful neighbor, and quite frankly, my position, the lawyer side of me, if the tables were turned, I would say, well, those kind of make sense. We might be on the hook if there's a liability. So I guess I would just support that we withdraw from it. The only other question that I have is, I think, possibly to our CAO. I think at the time that we were entering into this agreement, I think we did pass a motion that in the interim period of time, we would provide services without an agreement. And I'm wondering if that needs to be retracted, or if we consider that to be null and void if we withdraw from the agreement process. So I just wonder if we could tie that question up.
Yeah, through the chair. Us not renewing the agreement would speak to that the service is not being provided, but I would actually provide a letter back to them saying that that service is being withdrawn and they'd have to look for that service elsewhere.
Thank you.
Councillor Giacono?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm in agreement with what's been said. My question may be a little skewed, but I read this evening in the Ottawa Citizen that many smaller municipal volunteer fire departments, Castleman, Rockland, are having difficulty attaining volunteer firefighters. So it's my understanding Petawawa is volunteer, correct? They're all volunteer?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. The town of Petawawa is a volunteer, mainly volunteer department, yes.
Okay. So would they be able to properly assist us with the handling of our equipment if we happen to be on site with this agreement? That's my question. Or would we be jeopardizing our guys? And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying, trying to look after everybody, their health and welfare, our guys too. So if they were assisting and they weren't trained as a professional firefighter, would that be a hindrance to you, or would it be an asset to you? How would you perceive that?
So through you, Mr. Chair, the way that the agreements are written, if it was our particular piece of equipment that would go up to assist in the event of an emergency, would be completely staffed and operated at all times by Pembroke personnel only. So there would be no, there would be very little interaction between Petawawa firefighters and Pembroke firefighters in terms of operating the equipment and using the equipment on scene. However, we would still be working under their command structure, just as a separate sector.
Very good. On volunteers, are we having the same issue? I mean, we have a professional firefighting team that, that works all the time, but you also rely on volunteers. Are we encountering any of those problems with volunteers in other municipalities that don't have a professional firefighting team? Are you encountering those problems with the recruiting?
So through you, Mr. Chair, this is a conversation that we could spend hours on.
Okay.
Just with the last, with all of the changes in the certification process that the province has seen, that's where some of the smaller volunteer departments are running into issues, is finding certified members or getting their members to certify. It's not an easy process. It's an arduous process. It's time consuming. It's costly. We here in the city of Pembroke are fortunate because we have a very good and loyal volunteer force right now, and we're just bringing in small pieces here and there to fill it out. And fortunately, we're in a position where we can bring on certified members, so we're not struggling to certify these members. So we are in a very fortunate spot when compared to other smaller, fully volunteer municipal departments.
Thank you.
Councillor Keel?
So I think the recommendation was asking us to do something, so I move pursuant to the staff recommendation that we retract the proposed agreement.
Do a seconder, Councillor Purcell. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Thank you, Chief.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah, okay. Motion to adjourn, Councillor Keel, second by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? Carried. We are adjourned.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this council meeting to order for October 1st. If everyone would please stand for an opening prayer or reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in relation to the open meeting of council? Seeing none. For minutes this evening, we have a number of them. First is approving minutes from a regular meeting of council September 17th, 2024, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? That's carried. Next is adoption of minutes from committees, and we have Finance and Admin Committee, September 3rd, 2024. I have Councillor Keel moving it, seconded by Councillor Giacono. Those in favor? And that is carried. And then we have receiving minutes from local boards. First up is Pembroke Heritage Murals, and there's two of them, July 3rd, 2024 and September 4th, 2024. If there's a motion to adopt those minutes, I have Councillor Giacono, and I have seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? That is carried. And the last one is the Pembroke Public Library Board, June 20th, 2024, so before their summer break, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? That is carried. This evening we have two proclamations. The first is that I do hereby declare October 6th through the 12th as Fire Prevention Week in the City of Pembroke, whereas the City of Pembroke is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting the city. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire, and whereas home fires result in an average of 24,000 fires, 3,100 injuries, and 377 deaths each year in Canada, and whereas working smoke alarms significantly reduce the risk of dying in home fires, and whereas 1/3 of fatal fires in Canada do not have working smoke alarms, whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas the Pembroke Fire Department is dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. Whereas the City of Pembroke residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their own homes. Whereas the 2024 Fire Prevention Week theme is Smoke Alarms, Make Them Work for You, effectively serves to remind us that smoke alarms can make a life-saving difference in a home fire. So October 6th through the 12th is Fire Prevention Week. As the proclamation indicates, fire is a serious public safety concern. It is our duty to consider, plan, and implement ways of reducing our risk to ourselves, loved ones, and others. One way of doing this is to have working smoke alarms. We have a great full-time fire department in the City of Pembroke that are dedicated to ensuring that we are safe. This year's theme, as indicated, is Smoke Alarms, Make Them Work for You. So therefore, I, Ron Drew, Mayor of the City of Pembroke, do hereby proclaim October 6th through to the 12th, 2024 as Fire Prevention Week, and I urge all the people of Pembroke to check their smoke alarms, ensure that they are installed properly, and meet the needs of your family during Fire Prevention Week 2024, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Pembroke Fire Department and all fire departments across Ontario. The second proclamation this evening pertains to World Mental Health Day. I do hereby declare October 10th, 2024 as World Mental Health Day in the City of Pembroke. Whereas October 10th is recognized around the globe as World Mental Health Day, a day to talk about mental health issues and illnesses, come together as communities to support those needing assistance, identify gaps in service, and look at all ways to improve and enhance access to care. Whereas good health is vital to our overall health and well-being, yet 1 in 8 people globally are living with mental health conditions which can impact their physical health, their well-being, how they connect with others, and their livelihoods. Mental health conditions are also affecting an increasing number of adolescents and young people. And whereas often fear and misunderstanding about mental health and mental health illnesses leads to prejudice and discrimination against those who struggle, whether it is intentional or not, This discrimination and stigma can trigger feelings of hopelessness, shame, and ultimately create serious barriers to diagnosis and treatment, as individuals are reluctant to share details about their struggles in a way that would assist them and would also bring about physical symptoms and illnesses. Whereas as a community, we can help by knowing the facts and educating ourselves about mental health illness and mental health, being aware of our attitudes and behaviors, choosing our words carefully, educating others, challenging myths and stereotypes, focusing on the positive, and recognizing that mental health illness and mental health issues are only part of anyone's big picture. Supporting people, treating everyone with dignity, respect, and offering support and encouragement, and being inclusive. So as indicated, October 10th of this year is World Mental Health Day. The purpose of this day is to bring about awareness and driving positive change and mobilizing efforts in the support of mental health. Please take a moment to reflect on World Mental Health Day and consider how we can be all kind to one another and work to assist those suffering with mental health concerns. Therefore, I, Ron Gerva, Mayor of the City of Pembroke, do hereby proclaim October 10th, 2024 as Mental Health Day in the City of Pembroke and encourage those who are struggling to reach out for support. There are many great services in our region for people of all ages, and while navigating the healthcare system can be challenging, a new coordinated access service for those with mental health, substance use, and addictions needs is available in the form of accessmah.ca. There is also a 24/7 mental health crisis line at 1-866-996-0991. Next is bylaws. Councillor Jacquino, I understand that you have bylaw 2024-57, a bylaw enforcement agreement.
I do, your worship, members of council, moved by myself, seconded by the deputy mayor, that bylaw 2024-57, being a bylaw to appoint municipal bylaw enforcement officers to enforce parking provisions in the parking lots associated with 58 Pembroke Street West, 120 Lake Street, 227 Lake Street, and 185 Prince Street be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by his worship and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation waiting her signature.
Moved by Councillor Jacquino, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that bylaw 2024-57, a bylaw to appoint municipal bylaw officers to enforce parking provisions in the parking lots associated with 58 Pembroke Street West, 120 Lake Street, 227 Lake Street, and 185 Prince Street be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Jacquino, did you wish to speak to this?
Thank you, your worship. When are there any changes in personnel or addresses as such? This housekeeping item. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Councillor Keel, I believe you have motion 2024-24, declaration of surplus land.
Thank you, your worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Be it resolved that the corporation of the City of Pembroke declares the following lands as surplus and gives notice of the proposed sale of land. Number one, a parcel of land at the end of Dominion Street next to 464 Dominion Street. It is legally described as Plan 163, Lot 165, Lot 166, and Lot 167. The lot is zoned both residential type 2, slope stability R2s, and hazard H, which would need to be taken into consideration during development. This lot is classified viable. Number two, a parcel of land on Doran Street between McGee and Darcy Streets. It is legally described as Plan 30, Block 16, Lot 6, Part Lots 8 and 210. The lot is zoned residential type 2, slope stability. This lot is classified viable. Number three, 486 Draper Street. It is legally described as Plan 163, Lot 183 and Lot 184. The lot is zoned both residential type 2, slope stability, and hazard, which would need to be taken into consideration during development. This lot is classified viable. Number four, a parcel of land at the end of Garden Street next to 198 Garden Street. It is legally described as Plan 611, Block 77. The lot is zoned open space and would need to be rezoned prior to development. The lot is classified as viable. Number five, a parcel of land at the end of James Street next to 451 James Street is legally described as Plan 24, Block P, Lots 8, 9, and 10. The lot is zoned both residential type 2, slope stability, and hazard, which would need to be taken into consideration during development. This lot is classified viable. Number six, a parcel of land at the corner of Metcalf Street and River Road. It is legally described as Plan 85E, Part Lot 268, and being Part 2 on Reference Plan 49R 5494. The lot is zoned open space and would need to be rezoned prior to development. This lot is classified non-viable. A parcel of land at the end of Thompson Street, next to 498 Thompson Street, is legally described as Plan 228, Lot 30 to 35. The lot is zoned both residential Type 2, slope stability, and hazard, which would need to be taken into consideration during development. This lot is classified viable. Number 8, a parcel of land at the end of Thompson Street, next to 455 Thompson Street, is legally described as Plan 228, Part Lot 26 to 29. The lot is zoned both residential Type 2, slope stability, and hazard, which would need to be taken into consideration during development. This lot is classified viable. I would suggest that the mayor can dispense with rereading that.
Just about to ask that. So with the reading of that motion already by Councillor Keel, if we're good with dispensing with the rereading of it, Councillor Keel, did you wish to speak to it or let it stand as explained?
It can stand as explained.
Okay. Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Under Mayor's Report, I wish to bring forward my Mayor's Report regarding invitations, appearance, and other matters. On September 20th and 21st, the Pembroke Police Services Board held the OAPSB, so Ontario Association's Police Services Boards Conference here in Pembroke. It was a great conference of various PSB members from across the area sharing thoughts, concerns, and ideas in the area of policing. Many thanks to the board members and staff for assisting with the conference and working out the details to host an excellent conference. Truly, Pembroke is becoming a destination for conferences and having been the host for a number of them yet this year. On September 21st was the OPP Golden Helmets Precision Motorcycle Team here in Pembroke, so it just ended off an excellent conference. Great opportunity to take in a free event, witness some superior motorcycle talent, and received many positive comments arising from that. On September 22nd was the season opener for the Pembroke Lumber Kings. I've had the privilege of attending the Pembroke Lumber Kings with the Pembroke Lumber Kings sponsors, Hyundai Pembroke, as we participated in the ceremonial dropping of the puck. Go Kings, go. September 30th, yesterday was National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, a time to reflect upon the atrocities committed not long ago. I point out that for all members of council as well as staff that the Police Services Board has had a number of education initiatives that the Solicitor General's office has mandated. And I want to point out that they have some excellent materials on this particular subject. And so if there's any way that we can get the Solicitor General's office to allow all members of council to have it and or staff, that would, to me, be a great assistance in educating as to this particular topic. As was discussed earlier this evening, October 12th, as Pembroke Fire Department is hosting their Fire Prevention Week, and I encourage everyone to come out for that, get a picture with Sparky, have a hot dog, and certainly take part in the fire detector exchange. I want to inform members of council tonight, and unfortunately he's left. He's covered various items this evening, and he's been covering items for, I think it was 13 years, Deputy Mayor. So Kyle Robinson is no longer going to be with MyFM. This was his last meeting this evening, so we will miss him. Certainly, he's a member of the family, if you will, attending all of our different meetings, including budget meetings and otherwise. But he's moving on to a different position somewhere else, and so he will no longer be covering our council meetings. So in one breath, that's certainly good for him to advance and do what he wishes to do in life. But the downfall part is that we will have one less potentially media outlet covering our meetings unless they replace him with someone else, which stay tuned, I guess. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Seeing none. Councillor updates. Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I certainly wish to acknowledge that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Canada and in other countries. Certainly, I think many of us have family members. Certainly, my own grandmother was affected by breast cancer. And so certainly this month, we are extra aware of that particular issue. Your Worship, I want to thank you for the efforts that you put into getting the golden helmets up here to Pembroke. That was an absolutely spectacular show. I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I think somebody might have said that it was decades since they were here last. It might have been yourself that said it was decades since they were here last. And you know, it's not often that you're, you know, walking through a crowd of people and they have absolutely nothing but positive things to say and smiles on their face. And that event, Your Worship, was absolutely amazing. So thank you for your efforts with that, and the broader Police Services Board and the local inspector, who I think all had a great deal of effort into that one. On September 25th, I'm happy to announce that we had our first Sportsplex facility joint committee meeting with representatives of the town of Laurentian Valley, with myself as chair of that committee. We had a very positive discussion, and I'm proud to say that I think both municipalities generally recognize that we need to look forward. And so I will say that, you know, obviously it was the first meeting. We didn't get into details, but it was very positive, Your Worship. September 26th, I had the opportunity to attend at Algonquin College with the CAO and the mayor, as was alluded to in one of our prior meetings. An absolutely amazing opportunity to meet with students who themselves were actually quite engaged. You know, we certainly lured them with some pizza and some cookies, but nevertheless, there was quite a few comments. Some students leaving more than one sticky note comment. So it was great engagement, and I certainly look forward to where that is going. This past weekend, we had Rib Fest. I can tell you that Friday at lunch, the brisket sandwich was good. I can tell you that Friday at dinner, the pulled pork sandwich was good. On Saturday, I started the day downtown at Pure Canadian Candle Company, which celebrated its 4th anniversary. Many thanks to Krista for that. I then went over to Rib Fest, and I can tell you that the ribs and chicken were good. And then I suited up and went up to Petawawa for the 2024 Business Excellence Awards Gala with the Chamber of Commerce. And if anybody's wondering what I did on Sunday, I slept in. So it was a busy weekend. With respect to Rib Fest, I think a number of us were down there. This was an absolutely amazing event. I mean, it was yet again. I had so many people, some of them running up to me to tell me how great the event was, and they were so happy to see something like that in Pembroke. I made a daily Facebook post about Rib Fest, and I can tell you it is one of the most interacted posts that I have ever had as a councillor, and it was all positive comments. So certainly to Mr. Neffen, I know I already pinned him down and told him that this event needs to return, and I think he's certainly keen at looking at those options. But as far as destination events go, I think this one certainly has the ability to grow even larger. There could be additional community components, as if we didn't see enough down there this weekend. Mr. Neffen has some other thoughts and ideas, so I certainly hope that we will see this back, and certainly I look forward to speaking with our staff on how we can facilitate its return. And that is it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Keel. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I want to congratulate Sean Binky on who does our broadcast here on your recognition and award at the Chamber of Commerce Gala. So congratulations. I attended every year I go to the ACFO Champlain region festivity to celebrate Franco-Ontario Day. They're a wonderful group. They're very dedicated to promote the the French culture in Pembroke. And Mary and I were going to buy the sugar pie, but they all sold out by the time we got there. So Councillor Keel was there, and he didn't get any sugar pie either.
The raisin pie was good.
Yes, raisin pie was good. We had the lemon pie. On behalf of the mayor and I, we hosted a very well-attended community watch meeting on September 23rd. The Police Services Board will be considering the approval of our 8th zone in the Alfred William Street area, which is very encouraging, and we want to thank the volunteer that coordinated that effort. Yes, the Rib Fest was great, and it's such a wonderful destination event, and we have that space at the waterfront, which was what it was meant for. someone came up to me and they said to me, what is this costing the city? What does this cost? I said nothing. They're paying us to rent the field, and the rest it's here. And, you know, they couldn't believe how great it was. And so the comments were, it's such a beautiful waterfront park to host events like that. We had a transit committee meeting this afternoon, and had a great discussion on transit. We'll be having more meetings later this fall, with an RFP being released the end of October, early November. So that's moving along. I'm helping out again this year to organize a fundraiser for Blanche at Got You in Mind. It's going to be October 25th at the Fitzy Sports Bar, $10 cover. We want to thank all the bands that are volunteering. We're working on a poster, and Blanche gets referrals from agencies, but she doesn't get the funding. So she gives out more than she receives. So we want to help Blanche and give back, support her for all the people she supports in the community. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any others? Seeing none. Councilor Purcell, I understand you have a motion to move into a closed session.
I do. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Keel, the meeting become a closed meeting to discuss litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality as per section 239(2) of the Municipal Act regarding 273 Victoria Street, the grind, and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal and local board employees as per section 2392B regarding festival hall management. Thank you.
So moved by Councilor Purcell, seconded by Councilor Keel. Meeting become a closed meeting to discuss litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality as per section 239 sub 2 sub E of the Municipal Act regarding 273 Victoria Street, which is the grind, and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees as per section 239 sub 2B regarding festival hall management. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We will now move into a closed session.